Hey friends, quick content warning. Today we're going to talk about death and hell. We know that this is a surprisingly difficult subject for many who have left religion. Hopefully we make big enough asses of ourselves to take the edge off. Also, there's a brief mention of a clergy member who was trying to take photographs of teenagers in the bathroom. Gross, right? While we don't really dig into the subject or treat it with any seriousness, please believe us that we do know how horrific the topic of sexual assault is, and we have plans to approach that very subject with real sincerity in a future episode. If you're still with us, enjoy the show.
This firefighter, this ignominious carbuncle, shall henceforth be solemnly banned from our holy presence, rejected from the communion of Holy Mother Church.
Excommunicate him!
What good would that do?
Outsider of the faith, a necromancer, a diabolist, a sorcerer, and a damned heretic.
He's a very naughty boy!
Welcome to Heretic Party, podcast for apostates, and for all the other happy lost souls out there who want to listen to screwed up stories about living through and living beyond religion. My name's Christian Atley. I'm one of your hosts, and who the fuck are you?
You talking to me? My name's Joe, the co-host with almost the most of the time.
And as always, we are joined by Leanne Collins, our producer, researcher, and resident sexual pariah. I hate to say, is that really going to always be your title? Why not?
Sure. Let's make it a thing.
Yeah.
It could also be your wrestling name.
The sexual pariah. Yeah.
Oh, change it to sexual piranha.
Ooh.
What would your finishing move be?
Finishing move? Phrasing.
Oops. I have a good Christian boy mind, and I don't think that way.
He's a very naughty boy!
Well, think about it and come up with your finishing move. And next time I see Joe in person, in real life, I will immediately grab him and do that move to him.
Oh man, I can't wait.
So I was raised Pentecostal, Baptist, a bunch of different evangelical churches, screaming, speaking in tongues, casting out demons, baptisms in the river, all that junk. And nowadays I identify as a humanist or maybe some sort of agnostic. I don't want to spend any of my time on this earth anymore worrying about the afterlife or God or things like that, when I think what needs to be done here is work for humans. So that's a little better explanation of where I stand. Joe, what about you?
Oh man, I grew up in the speaking in tongues, the baptisms, but they also like to preach about how we don't need material possessions here on earth right before they ask for all your money, and that you'll be rewarded with material possessions on earth. Also in heaven, but mainly on earth. These days, this week, I'm on that ancient alien shit. Yeah, boy.
It seems to me that you have as much belief in aliens as you do in God, maybe more.
You're probably right. I mean, while there's the same amount of evidence for both, I'm all about that alien shit, dude.
Right? I feel like I just put words in your mouth. I didn't mean to pigeonhole you there. I'm glad that we brought up heaven, because that's what we're talking about this week.
La 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 la.
New intro song. So, Leanne, what about you? We haven't talked to you about your spiritual situation. Where are you at?
Yeah. Evangelical, generic, non-denominational, back and forth Christian. Yeah, I'm definitely agnostic. If there's proof, I'm open to it. But yeah.
I think every reasonable person should be open to other points of view, but gosh, all I see from religion is death, rape, and destruction. I'm in a fucking pissy mood. Let me tell you all why I'm in this mood. Yesterday, I parked illegally for like 5 minutes.
Oh, no.
Not like double parked and blocked someone in. I blocked in a big empty parking lot where no one was parked, but you have to pay like by the hour. Anyway, got a ticket. Someone must have just been watching to see if anyone parked there. Whatever. So as I'm pulling the ticket off the dashboard, all pissed off, I drop my phone and it breaks.
No.
So all of a sudden, the ticket just seemed like the least important thing. Because, like, you assess these, like, dollar amounts in your head. I'm like, God damn it, here's a $50 ticket. And then immediately, oh, my God, that's like a $600 phone. The most expensive thing I own is that fucking phone.
Right?
Oh,
now,
that's so
now it's all smashed. Anyway, so let's make some good podcast here. That way we can get Apple as a sponsor and then give me a new iPhone.
Yeah, the Apple iPhone. Brought to you by Fruit named phones that cost way too much and break too easy.
Yeah, they do.
I got one too. I mean, the best phones, great for podcasting and all your other needs.
Yeah.
Fits right in your pocket.
Well, this podcast has exactly 0 listeners so far, so I was thinking that we should do ads that are just for made-up stuff, or we should do an ad for like a nonprofit that we love. I really don't want to have a podcast with ads, but fun, made-up ads, hilarious.
Yeah, brought to you by Adam and Eve.
Dude, that's really funny. We could troll through their website and find the most biblical dildos.
Yeah.
Like, there's a big one called the Abraham, right? There's got to be.
Bring your sex life back from the dead with the Lazarus, only from Adam and Eve. Get your wiggles out with Adam and Eve.
So you can literally fuck the patriarchy.
Oh, nice. Tired of bordering game nights with that one couple you always hang out with? Try out our new 4-ended crucifix dildo.
Get the party started.
Cast lots to see who gets the long end.
Get the job done.
Get the job done. Oh my god.
You'll be saying, oh my god, all night long.
30 silver pieces to whoever takes the most. That's all.
Is your hog possessed?
Has it been 3 days since the stone's been rolled away from your hole?
This is just the podcast now.
Oh my god. Oh, we're such idiots. Well, is it possible to have negative listeners?
Yeah, great. I'm out, guys.
I would now like to talk about each of your individual religious beliefs.
I've been involved in a number of cults, both as a leader and a follower.
Keep things spicy.
You have more fun as a follower, but you make more money as a leader.
Psych!
Anyway, well, before we talk about heaven, Joe, I like to play games on here.
I like playing games with you.
I know. We've played actually a lot of games. When you and I worked together in Texas, we used to drive a promotional vehicle for a drink that was definitely made of bull urine. Spoiler alert. And we used to play a game where we would see who could sing the loudest. That was a fun game. No rules, no prizes, just who could scare the other person the most and almost crash the car. That was fun.
Yeah, we were great employees.
Yeah. We were employees. Okay, so I have a game here. Joe, I have 3 news stories here.
Okay.
2 of them are real, and 1 of them is fake, and you have to figure out which one
Ooh,
is fake, okay?
All right.
Okay, I'm hoping you haven't already read these, otherwise it's just gonna give it away, but...
I'll lie if I did.
No, don't. All right, you ready, Joe?
All right, hit me.
Story number 1. Swallowed by the whale. Lobster diver caught by humpback whale off of Massachusetts beach.
Wow, tables have turned, huh?
It's the story of Jonah, except it happened in Massachusetts just a few months ago. A lobster diver, a blue-collar Massachusetts working man, swallowed by a whale, broke his leg.
How long was he inside the whale?
He was in his mouth for about 20 seconds.
Oh, I thought he was swallowed for days and was really just on a bender, and when he came back was like, a whale swallowed me. That's why I haven't paid my bills.
Well, one of the things that in the story of Jonah, right, famously swallowed by a whale in the Bible because he didn't go where God wanted him to, so God made sure he was swallowed by a whale.
Yeah, he was like trying to get out of town or something.
Yeah. In church, I was told that story was definitely true, but then later I heard that whales cannot swallow humans. This story may have disproven that. Maybe man can be swallowed by a whale.
Well, I'll point you to a little-known film called Pinocchio. Because I remember when I heard that story, I was like, no way. And then I saw Pinocchio and I was all, oh shit, I guess I gotta be afraid of whales now.
I thought Geppetto's little house inside the whale was kind of rad. Like he just hung out at this cool little cabin and it was all quiet. I don't know. Like he was catching fish in there and eating them, right? I mean...
He must have. It would seem like he was all set up.
Fucking boomers took all the houses and now we have to daydream about living inside of whales. First impressions, true story or fake? What do you think?
So after all the things we talked about, I'm definitely in the middle.
Okay, story number 2. Florida Youth Director David Nims accused of hiding camera in church bathroom.
True, real.
What makes you say that one's real?
I don't know. I think I've heard of that happening kind of a lot.
Yeah, it worked for a Calvary Baptist church in Florida. A 14-year-old boy noticed a camera under the sink in the bathroom, told the church leaders, and they called the cops and found a bunch of cameras and equipment that he had been hiding, taking pictures of teenagers in the bathroom.
Has he never heard of the internet? Like, he can find all those things very harmlessly.
Right.
If he wants to be a piss priest. Or a poo priest, hey.
Hey, either way.
No judgment if you're doing it on the World Wide Web.
Yeah, no judgments.
Oh, it's probably because they were kids. What a grossy.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, my thoughts? True.
Good thoughts. But real quickly, can we interrogate why that's so believable?
Oh, well, I don't want to name names, but it happened twice back home. Not personal friends, but people that we knew got busted for it. Yeah, man, it was super shocking. They weren't even priests. I think just generally dudes in power with access to children that stay in their house. Lots of red flags.
Yeah, I think it's more believable for me because it's a church leader. Maybe I just have a different distrust of church leaders, but they're so full of shit so often and do so many evil things, with that power. So, I don't know. Well, we're going to talk to some people on this podcast, I think, who had some tough encounters with church leaders that have been abusive. But we'll get to that horrible topic another day. Back to the game.
All right.
Story number 3. Utah governor urges residents to pray for rain as drought bites. So, the Republican governor of Utah invited the residents of his state to join him in a weekend of prayer for rain to combat the drought emergency.
Oh, man. Ooh, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if it would become a news story. Did it work? Did they get rain?
I mean, eventually, right? Isn't that the problem with praying for stuff like that? Quick story. At some church camp thing I was at, I was probably like 15 or so. It was raining and we were all supposed to do some kind of activity. And we were in the little like worship area, probably 150 kids, right? And they told us to pray for the rain to go away so we could do the thing. So we all prayed and like sang and spoke in tongues and yelled out stuff. And then someone came running in and said that it had stopped raining. And like everyone cheered and praised God, it stopped raining. And then about 20 minutes later when we were leaving, it was totally pouring again. So we all got rained on and didn't get to do the activity. So it was like the rain slowed down for 1 minute and we all believed that we had convinced God to shut it off. I don't know, but
good work.
Fucking stupid. I don't know.
What was the activity you were trying to do?
It was one of those expensive camps up in the Colorado mountains. So it was probably like zip lining and shit like that. I mean, I was too poor to go to those things, but I often could go because of, I don't know, the special dispensation they give for poor kids. Anyway, this is a catch-22 about praying for something, right? If you get what you prayed for, you believe that it was because of your prayer. And if you don't get it, you believe it's just God's will that you don't get it, right? It's inescapable. It's like, you can't lose that bet.
Yeah. That's why it's impossible to argue with those folks sometimes.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, Joe, Do you believe that a man was swallowed by a whale a la Jonah, and that Christians were all excited about the story because it proved that Jonah really could be swallowed by a whale? Do you believe that a Florida youth director was taking videos of children using the toilet? Or do you believe that the Utah governor decided that the best use of his power was to ask the citizens of his state to pray for rain?
Dang, dude, is it fucked up that the one I believe the most to be true is the most fucked up one? The camera's one? All right, so that leaves me with whales or rain prayers. I want to say if a man got swallowed by a whale, that would be newsworthy, but I don't know if praying for rain would be. I'm going to say the praying for rain one's fake.
Joe?
Yeah?
You're incorrect.
Oh, what?
But the main reason that you're incorrect is because I am a big liar. And all three of those stories are true.
Whoa! Oh, dang.
Such a stupid joke. Let me be honest. Those are just three that I thought were kind of funny. I found so many great religious stories that were all so insane. Some of them were so nuts that I was like, he's going to guess that one right away, so I better make him a little more believable.
Wow. All right. Well, that makes the world a little more exciting, right? You can get swallowed by a whale, piss spied, and then also, I guess, I'll pray for all of my credit card's files to get wiped. That work?
All three of those things can happen, according to the news.
Hell yeah.
Piss Spied, brought to you by Adam and Eve.
Piss Spy. That's the new James Bond. Who's the guy that gives him all the gadgets?
Q.
Yo, all right, check this one out. You hide this one under the sink. Perfect shot of the pee.
James Bond shows up, and all of Q's stuff is just how to spy on people in the toilet. You know, it always ends with Q showing Bond his new car. Even the car is just like designed to be parked right next to a urinal.
No, he'll be all, and check this out, James. You can open the seat and pee in it, and I put this camera right here, just in case someone steals your car to pee in it.
Well, next time we do that game, be on the lookout. Maybe I'm going to fuck with you again. And
you're keeping me on my toes
true
now.
Stories, yeah.
This is going to carry over into our real relationship where I'm not going to believe anything you tell me. How do I know you're not just recording me saying all this stuff that you're going to edit and get me in big trouble?
I already have enough footage for that, so.
That's true.
Our gods are dead. Ancient Klingon warriors slew them a millennia ago. They were more trouble than they were worth.
So, Joe.
Yes.
Let's talk about heaven.
Okay.
At the end of this episode, I'm going to play an interview with one of the most interesting people I know in my day-to-day life. His name is Lamoreaux. He's just a really rad, sweet, fascinating guy. I'm going to put a link to his TED Talk on the episode notes on our website so that people can hear his full story, but I'll give you the 10 peso version real quickly here.
Thank you.
Lane was what's called a smoke jumper. You know, because we grew up in not a forested area, Joe, I didn't know what this was, but...
A smoke jumper.
Yeah, up here in the Northwest, smoke jumpers are wildland firefighters. They, with a shovel and an axe, they do these really low altitude parachute jumps behind wildfires, and they dig trenches, tear down strips of forest so that a fire won't spread, and it's an incredibly dangerous job, right, for a lot of reasons, because you're parachuting from low altitude into a dangerous area where there's wildfires.
That's crazy.
And there is a pretty high mortality rate compared to a lot of jobs. I mean, the wind shifts and they get caught in a fire, you know, it happens all the time.
Also, like, they probably can't see where they're landing, huh, because of all the smoke?
That's a good question. I am so not that type of person, so I don't know anything about what it actually looks like.
Yeah, the only smoke jumpers we have back home are just dudes that do cool vape tricks.
Yeah, that's what we call smoke jumpers there. Smoke jumpers are dudes who smoke gigantic vapes, and they do that while jumping their Honda Civic over speed bumps.
Some great smoke jumping. So this real one is way more dangerous than exciting. Okay.
It is. I think they probably actually parachute in pretty far from the fires because they have to tear down areas of it in order to, you know, before the fire gets there.
Oh, yeah.
I imagine that if any firefighters are listening to us talk right now, we just sound like complete idiots because it's probably so much more complicated than we're making it sound. But
you're so dumb.
You are really gone. For real.
In any case, what happened to Lane was one time he had a double chute failure. Neither his main chute nor his reserve opened.
Jeez, that's like the scariest thing I've ever heard. Holy shit.
I know, right? He hit the ground, and I know I'm going to mess up some of the details here, but essentially he broke most of the bones in his body. I know that his femur was shoved up inside of his gut, his pelvis separated from his spine, and then his chute opened, and the wind started dragging him away, like his crumpled, beaten body. So this probably doesn't sound like it relates to heaven at all, I'm realizing. But the reason I interviewed him about this is because this is years later now. Lane has just one leg and one arm that functions normally and one that is still in needing of some major repair. He has one eye that is mostly blind. He's also one of the most positive, upbeat, kind people I've ever known. And he's a paragliding instructor now and competitor, like world-ranked competitor in paragliding.
Dang, dude.
The reason I think his story is relevant is because he died on 3 separate occasions related to that incident. He died on the spot there and was resuscitated after a long period of time. And then another time on the way to the hospital. And then a third time when his tubes were confused. And I think they put a feeding tube into his lungs and he almost drowned.
Holy moly. Man, Universe is really gunning for this guy.
I know. We'll have him on the podcast again to talk about some other crazy things that have happened to him. This is only the beginning, believe it or not. So on each of those occasions, his heart stopped, his breathing stopped, his brain was filled with death chemicals, and he experienced out-of-body afterlife experiences.
Whoa.
3 completely different experiences, and in the interview, he talks about all 3 of them. I think it's important to discuss this because this is the carrot, right? This is the thing that is dangled in front of religious people. You're going to get an afterlife. You're going to live forever. You're going to always be happy. If your body is fucked up, you're going to get a new body in heaven. You're going to be at your prime, you know? This is the promise that we're led to believe in Christianity. And maybe not every religion, but Mormons, all forms of Christians, Muslims, we all have some form of heaven, right? And some sects of Judaism have some form of heaven. And this is the carrot that's dangled for us, right? This is the thing we're told that we get. If we do good on earth, if we accept God, if we follow his teachings, then we get some sort of reward in the afterlife. In the case of the Mormon church, it's this really complicated like hierarchy of different levels of heavens and stuff. Really fascinating. We'll get some Exmo kids on here to explain it to us someday. Joe, when we were first talking about this podcast, we happened to get on the topic of heaven, and you said to me, hey, when you first heard about heaven as a kid, were you disappointed? And I thought that was the funniest thing because, yes, absolutely, I was disappointed when I was told what heaven was going to be like. But I want to hear from you why that was the case for you.
All right, so I went to a small little private school, so we had Bible class.
Sure.
And you know how Christians do sometimes where they try to like scare you into stuff. So they go on their long description of hell and it sounds shitty. Then they go on to talk about heaven. And the streets are paved with gold and there's all these beautiful trees and the river and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay. And then they say, and everyone spends eternity just worshiping God. And I was all, those are my options? Like, burned and tortured forever or singing praise and worship music forever? I was like, oh man, la 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 la. I don't want to do any of those things.
Seriously. This is exactly my same reaction, Joe. The idea of doing that forever, singing music at church, I know for some people it was really fun. For me, it was really boring. And when they said worshiping God, I thought that they literally meant sitting in pews for eternity. Actually, I remember picturing like 10 billion folding chairs in a giant auditorium and everyone just singing forever, and it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, man.
I wasn't disappointed. I was horrified.
Yeah, I was like, hold on. No TV? No video games? No basketball courts? I was like, we're just gonna sing forever? Like, I didn't mind 1 or 2 praise and worship songs before church. Be like, yeah, here we go. But then I remember I went to this one like Bible camp one summer, and they have that thing where like, we've got water slides and volleyball courts, but 3 times a day we're going to do church. And I remember one of the times it was just like 2 hours of praise and worship music, and I was going to lose my mind. I was like, dudes, we've been doing this for an hour. Aren't you tired? Like, let's go. There's water slides. Oh, man. That sounds more like hell. Like, you got to sit in church and sing forever while there's water slides outside. I was like, this freaking blows. Is there a middle place we can go that kind of, I don't know. Maybe it's got like heavy metal music and then you can play like shuffleboard with angels or something. I don't know. But praise and worship forever. That was a quick way to unconvert someone, I thought.
It's such an abstract idea that was presented to me as a kid that takes some real faith and sophistication of thought to get, is that God's presence would be so magnificent that is all you would want to do. And I guess as a kid, it was impossible really for me to grasp the idea that I could be so affected by something that my wants would change, you know?
Right.
It sounded like someone was going to get inside my head and reprogram me, and I would no longer be me if I was the type of person who would want to sit and listen to worship all day long. And that scared the shit out of me.
I guess like when I was the most serious about it, I was like, well, worship can be all kinds of things, but even still, I don't do things I like forever.
Yeah.
I can't draw forever or watch Star Wars forever, or I don't know. No one was pumped. She'd be like, doesn't that sound so great? And all of us 10-year-old kids in children's church are like, oh, that sounds kind of lame, whatever. Like, I don't know all the words to these songs. Is it the same song over again? Can we switch it up? I don't know, man. That shit, yeah. Like you said, it freaked me out. I was all, well, then what's the point of doing anything else? I guess I just gotta get good at singing. La, 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 la.
I mean, why bother getting good? You could take the opposite tack, be like, I don't need to get good here. I'm going to have all eternity to figure that out. So I know that a Christian hearing me say this would not find this to be a contradiction, but I think it absolutely is a contradiction to say that you shouldn't be doing good things or following God for the reward of heaven, and yet your options are to burn in hell or to go to hell. You know what I mean? It's so manipulative. You should follow God because God created you, and God is the only thing in all of existence deserving of praise for eternity. But you also should, for your own self-interest, because you don't want to go to hell. And even more than that, it's like you also should, because you're going to get all these treasures, but don't make it about the treasures.
Yeah.
But you're going to get all these treasures. It's so manipulative.
Oh, yeah. They used to tell us we were going to get mansions in heaven, and the more souls we saved, the bigger our mansion. There was one kid who was smarter than me who was like, well, what happens to, like, babies that die or people that never hear about Jesus? So all of us look at the teacher like, answer that question. And I think she said something like, well, you know, God knows their hearts, so they'll go to heaven. I was like, oh man, can you imagine being those people not knowing anything and then just showing up having to worship this dude forever that you had no idea about? I was like, that sounds even worse.
So that was also always so troubling for me, because I was given the same answer. God knows their hearts. And sometimes the way that's presented is, well, they haven't had a chance to commit sins yet, so they automatically go to heaven. Sometimes it's presented as, well, God knows whether or not they would have ended up being in heaven or hell, so he'll just send them directly there. Which means that, like, an infant that dies one day after being born, every miscarriage and every abortion also immediately gets, like, fast-forwarded through their life so that God can take a quick glance at it and be like, yep, this person was definitely going to be a piece of shit, so they're going straight to hell.
Sorry, baby.
One-day-old baby goes straight to hell. Like Calvinists absolutely believe that. For those that don't know, Calvinists are the hyper-rational, dispassionate sort of God has already decided who's going to heaven and who's going to hell kind of sect of Protestantism.
Illogical.
And I mean, a true, strict Calvinist don't even believe in proselytizing. Believe God has already decided your soul is predestined to heaven or hell. There is no point in trying to convince anyone, because you are either chosen by God for heaven or chosen by God for hell. It's so fucking fucked up.
It contradicts itself too, because God loves us so much he gave us all this free will. But if we're already destined to go one place or the other from the moment we're born, then again, what the fuck?
Seriously, that question there gave me so much trouble. And I talked about it with kids my age at the different ministries that I was involved in. But when I did get answers from church leaders for those types of questions, they were never satisfactory. They were always canned, just...
God knows their hearts.
Yeah, exactly. Gosh, sorry.
No, man, I think as a kid, it rubbed me super wrong, but I either wasn't intelligent enough yet to dig deeper into those questions, or I just didn't care. I think it was probably more the second of it's really easy to be nice and be good, so I got nothing to worry about. And so I just didn't think about it again. Just whenever those questions came up, it was real easy because not knowing anything else to just be like, well, I guess they're right, whatever. I'll find out when I get there. Maybe I'll learn to love singing. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just so like abstract and far away. It's like, I don't know, as a kid, you know, you kind of just accept it. And that as I got older, I was like, they never answered my questions. So frustrating.
Super frustrating. All right, Joe, I got a question for you.
Hit me.
We're going to play a little Which Heaven is Best, okay?
Okay.
I didn't plan this. I just made it up right now while we were talking.
All right.
I'm going to give you 2 different versions of heaven from 2 different movies, and you tell me which one you'd rather go to, okay?
Okay.
Let's start with Gladiator. This is the eternity where you just walk through a field of wheat in armor, and then the people you've lost are standing really far away and waving at you. That's one heaven, okay?
All right.
Heaven number 2, all dogs go to heaven.
Oh.
Okay, that's the one where, what do they say? It's always 73 degrees and you float around on clouds and dance with a hot dog. Not a hot dog, like a sexy canine.
Oh, man. I was going to pick that one. Well, I got bad allergies, so probably all dogs go to heaven.
You're more allergic to fields of wheat than you are to dogs?
But I can't pet the wheat the same way I can pet the dogs.
I think it's canon that the only thing that you take from your earthly body to heaven is your allergies.
Oh, shoot. I'm screwed then. Then heaven is just going to be the holodeck for me.
There's one really good heaven with all sorts of cool shit, but you got to have a spoonful of peanut butter when you get there so that all the peanut allergy kids are out.
Ooh. I knew there was always something about those peanut allergy kids.
Okay, so it's time for another heaven heads up. All dogs go to heaven versus Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey heaven.
With Station? That one, dude.
Yeah, this is the one where you play charades with Einstein and Station.
Station!
So is that the one?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay. That one does look like more fun. Everyone wears white, which is a little creepy.
Just like Andrew WK.
That's right.
He's an angel.
Let's see. Leanne, do you happen to have another heaven that is cool? I can't think of any really good ones from movies.
This is the end where the Backstreet Boys are singing.
Welcome to heaven, motherfuckers.
Oh. That's a good. Okay, here it comes.
It's my heaven.
Let's see. It's been a long time since I've seen that. Let me guess. There's a ton of weed in heaven, probably, then, right?
There's gotta be. I think that's what the clouds are.
All right, can I change my mind to that heaven?
I think every time we play Heaven Heads Up, we just add another heaven. So the winner right now, I guess, is This Is the End Heaven, Weed and Backstreet Boys.
No, that sounds great. That sounds like a good medium place.
Down.
I know it's not heaven in the movie, but that scene in the OG Willy Wonka movie where they walk out and see that chocolate river and everything's edible.
Yeah.
There was a time where I was like, yep, that's heaven. That's what heaven's like. You know, thinking about it now, Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka in that movie kind of behaves a lot like God in the Bible, you know? Like he does a lot of good things, but also a lot of fucked up things.
Yeah. Well, he sets them up to be tested on things that you cannot expect a child to be tested on. Oh, kid, here you are in a factory made of candy. Don't touch things or don't eat things. Like a bunch of unfair tests for children. Yeah, it sounds like God.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Look at me, all these years finally understanding what Willy Wonka was about.
Is it wrong of me to assume that Gene Wilder is probably in hell?
Is he? Was he a bad dude? I've only heard nice things about him.
No, he just, he seems like the type of guy that'd be much happier in hell.
Dad, can I ask you a question?
Sure, honey.
Why are you dedicating your life to blasphemy?
Don't worry, sweetheart. If I'm wrong, I'll recant on my deathbed.
Well, I'm excited for y'all to hear about Lane's experiences. Lane was raised Mormon. He is not a Mormon anymore and had left the church before this accident. So his experiences dying have nothing to do with him leaving religion. But he does identify kind of as a Buddhist now. I say kind of because he's got a more complicated life philosophy, I think, than that sounds. I don't want to put him in a box and just say he's former Mormon, now Buddhist. He's, like many of us, more complicated spiritual views than that, but we talk about that a little bit. He said something really interesting. He told me that he identifies culturally as a Mormon because he was raised Mormon, and those sort of ideas and values are still a big part of who he is. And I thought that was fascinating because I definitely am still culturally an evangelical Christian in a lot of ways. Like, I can't shake my instincts about certain things or my reactions to certain things because of the way I was raised.
Religious PTSD?
Yeah. Or just what parts of Christian culture are still a part of us that we're kind of okay with, you know?
Yeah, it's like a weird thing. Like, here's this religion that talks about all these amazing good things and about all the unconditional love that's supposed to be brought into the world by this belief system. And yet there's so many conditions to the love. It's so frustrating. And I think I still try to meet that criteria of making the world a better place, but I do not like the whole conditional part of it. And it's, I don't know, that makes it easier to break away. I'm behaving more like a Christian than a lot of these other Christians are, but I don't want to call myself a Christian. That's the short version of what I was trying to say, sorry. So long-winded.
No way, man, that's great. I absolutely get where you're coming from. And I think that's a good message for people who are leaving religion or thinking about leaving religion. First of all, I think you can do more good and less harm outside of religion.
Exactly.
And second, you don't have to give up everything. Maybe people in your life will abandon you. Maybe your friends won't want to be around you in the same way. Maybe your family will want nothing to do with you. But you're not going to turn into a different person overnight because you leave religion. You are going to, for the first time in your life possibly, have control over which parts of those beliefs you're going to enact. You're not going to be forced to follow a moral code set out for you by a religious organization. You can decide whom to love, whom to care about, what kind of good to do in the world, and not have it be regulated for you by some organization.
Yeah.
Brought to you by Adam and Eve.
Oh, this isn't going to be about Jesus, is it?
All things are about Jesus, except this.
So, Lane, the reason I wanted to talk to you for the purpose of this podcast is because one of the biggest issues for post-religious people, for people who've just left religion, having to deal with an adjustment of their concept of death and the afterlife. It's one of the main ways that religious organizations keep a hold on us is by either promising something in the afterlife or threatening something in the afterlife, right? And they control us like that. And for some people, that's a very real threat or promise. I've met some people who were ex-Christian, ex-Mormon, who have just extreme anxiety when things like the topic of hell comes up or the topic of death comes up because they were raised to believe that that's all going to be fine. Like, that's all covered. Don't worry. You're going to go to the celestial kingdom. You're going to go to heaven. Like, you're going to be fine. Regardless of whatever reason they left religion, that is still, that's a looming issue for them. And because you are the person I know who has come closest to death a number of times, I thought, and because you're ex-Mormon, or maybe part Mormon, a bit Mormon.
Culturally Mormon.
Culturally Mormon. I love that. But I just wanted to get your thoughts on what the experience was like. You had one really terrible accident and a lot of very terrible accidents.
Yeah.
Let me try again. Sorry, I can't help it. You had one very life-defining accident where you died, right?
Correct. 4 times.
4 times, man.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Can you tell me what you're comfortable talking about all this and everything?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that event changed everything.
Sure.
And I got to experience the most organic form of the spirit molecule, DMT,
right,
which will just force you. You will never see the world the same again afterward. And afterward, what I see is so much more beautiful and profound. And one of the words that I think best captures that experience is just how infinite things are. Like the world beyond, there's no borders or boundaries to it. It just continues and continues and continues. The idea that there's a beginning and an end is, I feel, very much Western, modern culture that likes to have things organized in very convenient, palatable ways. But this construct, this idea that things just keep going and going, I think makes a lot of people uncomfortable because, imagine running a marathon that had no finish line. You get pretty exhausted.
Can you tell me what that, I don't want to ask you to relive trauma that you don't want to relive, but do you remember the moment when your body quit and needed to be brought back, what that felt like?
Yeah, I had several of them. The first one was I bled out. I took a traumatic fall. I fell between 80 to 100 feet when my backup parachute I threw, when my glider collapsed. It didn't deploy and I fell. I had a significant fall. I cut a couple arteries, so I bled out internally. And I died in transit. So I wasn't even at the hospital yet. And that's when I felt my grandpa, I felt his shoulder against my left shoulder. And I just remember standing with him on this hillside in southwest Utah, watching the sunset. And it was a very strange sunset because as the sun got lower and lower, the sky strangely got brighter and brighter. And typically the reverse is true. So I was puzzled because the laws that govern our world suddenly didn't seem really applicable. And then feeling my grandpa was very powerful. And it confirmed that I was no longer in the world that I knew just an hour ago. And I remember looking down to my left and to my right, and everything I could see, every nuance, every grain of sand, branch of a cluster of sagebrush, everything symbolized a lived experience. So we've likely all heard someone say, or at least in movies say, my whole life flashed before my eyes. Well, for me, yes. When I looked to my left and right, that's exactly what I saw. Every twig and stick and grain of sand seemed to symbolize a lived experience. And I saw everything from the first time I kissed a girl, to the first time I cheated on a test, to making it onto the football team, the highs and lows. I saw it all, and I saw all throughout these experiences the people that made them so. And that's why being back in this world, what I value above and beyond everything are the connections I make with other people, because I feel like that's the only thing I can take from this world to the next. Mm-hmm. And that was just one of 4 times.
They were each distinct?
Yeah.
To you? Yeah. How long were you there in that moment?
The longest I was dead for was 15 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Quite a long time with a brain not having oxygen.
Oh my gosh, Lane.
But it was in transit, so I was only minutes away from blood transfusions. But it is, I know this as an EMT, extremely rare for someone to survive and stay alive after going through hypovolemic shock. That means you bled out and you were resuscitated. And then the next one was probably the most defining because it involved a choice. I really truly felt the sensation of discretion and free agency. The next time I died, I was able to see myself, see my body. I was able to have one of those out-of-body experiences, and I knew where I was, but I was quickly pulled away out of the hospital room and just blasted to a world beyond, well beyond. And I didn't feel like I had arrived anywhere yet. I felt like I was in some sort of transit connection hub where this was, yeah, I think a hub is the correct word, because this is where multiple forks came together into this one central place. And in this central place, I just remember all around, it was a circular sort of space, and all around there were these portholes. And looking through each of these little portholes was a different world. And I'm not able to describe what the different worlds, like I recall it, but there's just no words. The English language is not equipped to describe these worlds that are governed by entirely different sets of laws and rules and have their own nature. But one of the worlds included my mom, and right back there to that room, she was standing over me. And I remember having this profound sense of choice, like, Wayne, which world? And I think it's safe to say that I chose this world because here I am.
Wow. How long after your accident were you aware of these memories? As soon as you went back from the hub to your body, were you present? Did you know that you had made that choice?
I did, but I was handcuffed. I was weighed down. I didn't feel like I could express myself. And
sure.
And I think there's real physiological reasons for that. I lost 88 pounds in my 9-week coma. And I just, with my brain injury, it affected the nerve that goes to my vocal cords. So I wasn't even really able to speak. Everything had to be communicated via a whiteboard and a race marker. But the one experience that I recalled and I brought back into this world with me with some agitation and violence was when I had let go. It was another time I died, and this time it was the scariest of all my death experiences. I just remember entering death via drowning, and I was in some sort of cavern, like just totally, dreaming. So I don't feel like I'm in the hospital or anything like that. I just feel like I'm in some sort of cave network, and I'm in this tunnel-like cavern, and I just remember there's water or some sort of liquid that's filling it up. And I remember watching the level raise and raise and raise until the point where it was getting so high that I remember taking my lips and putting them on the roof of this cave and taking one last pull of oxygen before I was completely just encapsulated by it. And that's when my feeding tube was misrouted from my stomach into my lungs.
Oh, wow.
So that was so scary. And I lost my airway. It took a while for the response. And I don't think I was dead for that long. I had family there, and my twin brother, he describes it as the worst day of his life because he saw this all happen. He saw me. He spent enough time with me that he knew when things were going well and when they weren't. Like, there were little subtle cues, whether it was wiggling one finger or something like that. He picked up on things, and he picked up on something being really, really wrong. And he called attention from the staff. Had my twin not done that when he did it, there's no way I'd be alive today. And then I died again. And then they resuscitated me. But this time, I was pissed. I didn't want to be resuscitated. Mm-hmm. I was happy where I was. I was in a beautiful place. And I felt like I was, against my will, being pulled out of it and put back into this world forcibly. And I fought back. And no one saw this coming because my body had withered. I was atrophied and the muscle strength was non-existent. But nonetheless, I was able to somehow sit up and pull out all these life-sustaining tubes out of my body that were, bringing me the nutrients in the blood and oxygen for survival. And I just yanked everything out. And then I was pinned down and then I was ratcheted and strapped down to the bed, which only made me want to escape that much more. Like, at that point, I really felt like I was being held there against my will.
Wow. Wow. You described earlier the idea of there needing to be a beginning and an end as a Western idea. I remember you describing yourself at least as having some similar ideas to Buddhism. Is that how you identify now? Some of your spiritual efforts are directed toward Buddhist ideas now, or?
I feel like out of all the major traditions out there, I'm able to incorporate the philosophies and the teachings of Buddhism into my daily life most easily, because it's more of a philosophy than it is any sort of rigid set of rules with consequences. And
sure.
It doesn't operate the same that Western theology does with this carrot and stick, and I feel like we lean more on the stick than we do the carrot, which I know you opened with this regarding people's apprehension and fear when leaving religion, a lot of that being based on the afterlife. And this carrot and stick, is it better to be loved or feared? Well, I feel like it's much, much, much better to be loved.
I think that when it comes to the damage that's done by religion, I think the carrot is often really, really dangerous too. I think that making a bunch of promises about what you're going to get in return for your blind faith can lead people to do some really horrible things. You know, you're promised riches in heaven, so follow these rules blindly. Don't ask too many questions, you know. I know that many religious people think that they ask lots of questions and that they're very open-minded, but there's a list of things I would like to demonstrate on this podcast. That's one of them. I don't believe that's the case at all, but I think carrots are really dangerous too when they're wielded by someone who is promising something they can't prove.
And it really invites this framework of the means are justified by the ends. You know, if we're going to be closer to God, if doing so means doing something that may hurt someone, well, I see the danger in the carrot just opening the door for folks to justify some pretty crazy stuff because of this desired end state and whatever it takes to get there. And boy, some things can be pretty ugly.
Agreed. Death is something that I am definitely uncomfortable with the idea of. I fall into the category of people who took a lot of comfort from the idea of heaven. And now that I don't have that assurance, or I've pulled back the curtain and seen the Wizard of Oz back there, and I don't really believe that Christianity had any real answers for me or was likely based in any truth, I want to be bolder asking these questions. So, Do you believe your experience was genuinely supernatural, or does it not really matter whether or not it was? If you found out everything you experienced took place inside your own head, would it change how you view what happened?
It begs the question of what is reality?
Sure.
Perception. Perception's reality. So I don't think if some sort of research were to indicate that everything I experience has this scientific explanation that robs, that undermines the power, the life-altering, perception-altering power that the experience presented for me. If some other quote-unquote rational explanation were to undermine it, I don't think it would matter, because I still lived it, and I can't ever forget it. I can't ever forget it, and I think it'll forever change, and it has forever changed the way I see the world, and it's been consistent. You know, I've had my second life now. I think I'm going on my 7th year.
7 years.
So in some ways, I see myself as just being 7 years old, not 38, but whatever. I came away from my death experience with a few pretty hardcore convictions. I already shared one of them, the value and the significance of our relations and connections with other human beings. And the other one being, and this is 100% bona fide blasphemy or heresy in its purest form, but I strongly, strongly believe that this concept of hell there was no way to reconcile that with this loving, unconditionally accepting entity that a lot of people refer to as God. And at the same time, we're taught we hear these things like turn the other cheek, and God, loves all of his children. And how can that be true while there is also this space for you to burn for time and all eternity in the most gruesome form of suffering? No. So I stepped away from my experience with this firm conviction that hell is a man-made construct. It's created to scare us and be the fear factor that helps control behavior.
Absolutely. I'm not sure that I ever really believed in hell when I was a fervent Christian. I believed in it intellectually, and that I was told it had to be true, and I believed that everything in the Bible was true, and so it had to exist, but I had a really hard time reconciling it with what I believed about God. And so I remember thinking so long and hard about the idea of hell that I was able to evoke an emotional response from myself, that I was able to get myself freaked out about it, but it took work to do that. I had to visualize the actual pain. I had to visualize pain without end. I remember doing that to psych myself up enough to do God's work in converting people I knew. I was like, these people are going to go to hell. Christian, don't let them go to hell. Conceive of hell. Make hell a real place in your head so that you can get upset. Picture that person right there in hell for eternity. Do you want them to go there? Well, you better shape up then, Christian, if you don't want them to go to hell. I mean, I was just I'd been trained at that point to brainwash myself and to just go into these processes that would brainwash me and force me to act and to do the things that I was told I had to do. And man, fucked up, man.
Yeah. I feel like it's the driving force of missionary work.
Oh God, it absolutely is.
Yeah. If we don't convert these people, they're going to burn.
Yeah.
Do you want that? No. Well, then take the 2 most precious years of your life and devote them entirely to the church.
Yeah. You didn't go on your mission, did you? You're Mormon?
No, I joined the Marine Corps
That's right.
to get out.
That's right. First, let me say, this conversation is comforting for me. I don't have any beliefs one way or another about the existence of God right now. I think it could not matter less to the work that I want to do while I have time here on earth. But I really do like the idea of what you experienced, and I think it's really wondrous and beautiful. And I wonder, do you believe that when everyone dies, they're going to see what you saw?
I think everyone's going to have a very unique experience. And I think it'll be just the experience that they need to succeed in the world beyond. And I think for some people it could be scary. And for some people it could be uplifting and joyous. And I think one of the factors that it depends on, maybe I'm presenting the framework of carrot and stick now, but I believe this, and your choices and what you choose to do and the contributions you choose to make or not make are what you see as you're passing out of this world. And I never felt like there was any sort of hierarchy. I felt like all the other worlds existed on the same level, just at a different angle, looking through these portholes and having the options to choose between them. But I still felt like from that hillside, standing with my grandpa and looking at all my memories, that I was going to take them with me into the next world. So make good choices, because and appreciate and value the relationships you have with other people, because you'll keep them. That's the way I feel. I feel like consciousness precedes matter. We were able to form into beings on an intellectual level before we ever had anything that was tangible.
One of the main things that a religious person gives up in leaving their religious community is the assurance that there is something beyond. And I know that a lot of post-religious people are scared into returning to the church just out of fear, because there are a lot of churches that weaponize a fear of hell.
Yeah.
And I just think that your experience has so much more value than the tradition written down in some Bible somewhere, in some book somewhere. That I think that a post-religious person listening to this should be heartened that the truth is we know so little, that there is room in the world for such a variety of possibilities, that what you went through, Lane, may be exactly what is beyond, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're right in that each of us have a very personal experience ahead of us when death comes, or maybe you're wrong and we're all going to end up at that exact hub that you were at, you know? Or maybe it's something entirely different. But what I'm almost positive it's not is fire and brimstone hell and pearly gates and gold streets heaven. So I super appreciate your openness and compassion sharing all that, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could.
Pleasure.
Heretic Party is produced and edited by me, Christian Atley. Joe is our co-host and aspiring singer, and Leanne Collins is our content producer, researcher, and future wrestling superstar. Lane Lamoreaux is a total badass with a ton of interesting and fun creative projects. His TED Talk is called Survive and Thrive, a Story of Resilience. You can follow him on Instagram at lane.lamoreaux, where you can see him do amazing stuff like run triathlons and compete in paragliding competitions around the world. Follow us on social media at Heretic Party on Instagram and Twitter, and reach out to us on our website, hereticparty.com. Remember, happy lost souls, your stories deserve to be heard. You deserve friends and community who listen to you and support you. If you're struggling, recoveringfromreligion.org is a great nonprofit resource for individuals who have questions about changing or leaving their faith. They have a support hotline you can call anytime. We'll see you next Sunday, April 3rd, for our next episode, where we're going to get blasted on Mormon cocktails. Be excellent to each other. Value your relationships. Peace.